Colleagues and I from Brown Rudnick are truly honored to represent the plaintiff in this case, Johnny Depp. For nearly 30 years, Mr. Depp built a reputation, a respected artist whose name was associated with success. Today, his name is associated with a lie, a false statement uttered by the defendant, Amber Heard. It's a case about how devastating words can be when they are false. Under the law, a person who makes a false statement about someone else can be held responsible. That's because words matter. Specifically, the words that she used in an op-ed published in the Washington Post in December 2018. And the op-ed was published, and this is no accident, the evidence will show, no one had ever in 5 decades accused Johnny Depp of being violent with a woman. And no one had even suggested ever that he was capable of something like this. By choosing to lie about her husband for her own personal benefit, Amber Heard forever changed Mr. Depp's life and reputation.
We're nearing the end of the second week of the trial for Johnny Depp and Amber Heard's defamation case, the one where Johnny Depp is suing his ex-wife due to her claims in a now infamous op-ed where she claimed to be the victim of abuse and insinuated that her abuser was none other than Johnny Depp. For much of this week, Depp went and testified about how he wasn't an abuser and how his life had made it so that he would do everything but harm a woman in a physical way. Then on Thursday, it was Amber Heard's legal team's turn to try and turn the tables, and they did in certain ways. We'll break it down for you, but before we do that, go ahead and do us a favor by leaving a like on the video, subscribing to the channel, and hitting the bell icon so you never miss an upload from us. And with that being said, let's get straight into the video. Number 4, Depp's testimony recap. To understand fully how Amber Heard's legal team tried to counter what was said by Johnny Depp, it's important to see just what Depp said in his days of testimony leading up to the cross-examination. Key among this was the fact that he felt that he was never allowed to say anything of value in conversation with Amber Heard. I was not allowed to be right, not allowed to have a voice, Depp said, but he went even further in regards to how Heard kept causing the fights to happen. It was not meant to help the relationship, it was meant to feed her need for conflict, Depp said. She has a need for conflict, she has a need for violence. It erupts out of nowhere, he went on. It's hard to explain, but the argument would start here, but it would roll around and become this circular thing of its own, Depp said. You'd get back to the beginning, now it's heightened even more, and it's still circular. There's no way in or out. In a previous day of testimony, he cited the abuse that he took from his mother while he was a child, something that his sister, who also testified, confessed to, and stated that after a time, being married to Heard was like him reliving the abusive relationship he had with his mother. But even with that, he did his best, in his mind at least, to try and be the best he could be for her and to try and stop the fights from happening. I was doing everything I could to bring a smile to her face as opposed to a frown, and then the onslaught of whatever problems she was experiencing, he said. I would try to wake her up with laughter, singing stupid songs in her ear. I generally just tried to keep bringing her mood up. Sometimes it worked, many times it didn't, but I tried. He also heavily detailed the physical abuse that he took at her hands. It could begin with a slap, it could begin with a shove, it could begin with throwing a TV remote at my head. There was no need for it. Too many lines were crossed. You couldn't see the lines anymore. And when asked why he stayed, he again went back to what happened with his family. Why did I stay? I suppose because my father stayed in his abusive marriage, and I didn't want to fail. I wanted to try to make it work. I thought maybe I could help her. I thought maybe I could bring her around, because the Amber Heard that I knew for the first year and a half was not this. Suddenly, this opponent. It wasn't my girl. She had become my opponent, he said. And the last statement is indeed fitting, as the two are very much fighting each other as if they're in a boxing match of some kind, trading metaphorical blows in order to see who will come out on top. By the end of his personal testimony, many would acknowledge that Depp had painted himself as a sympathetic figure who was doing his best to try and make the best out of a bad situation. However, as you can likely guess, the real pressure was going to come when Amber Heard's lawyers went to cross-examine him, because they were going to do their very best to paint a very different picture of what happened in the marriage from start to finish. On Thursday, that's what they indeed attempted to do. Specifics and contradictions. It was very clear that the legal team of Amber Heard had a focus when it came to how they handled Johnny Depp on the stand. Key among this was their focus of getting Johnny to admit various things about his confirmed addictions, as in confirmed by both witnesses and Johnny himself, and that included his alleged drinking habits. No, I wasn't drinking that heavily. It's what you define as heavenly. Depp snapped back at defense attorney Ben Rottenberg at one point when pressed about his intake in the last last years of his long-term relationship with Vanessa Paradis, the mother of his now 2 grown children. Subsequently, the lawyer read out testimony from Depp's failed 2020 UK libel case against the Sun tabloid, where the actor had said, "I was abusing alcohol for sure," during the end of the Paradis relationship. After quipping, "Were you there?" to Rottenberg over his drinking, Depp softly admitted that the testimony was what he said, seemingly a contradiction to his stance in this case that he's not a heavy drinker and has pretty much never had a problem with booze, something that he actually reiterated within his testimony from the previous day. While this may seem like a small snafu, it could play a big part in the minds of the jury. After all, Depp is trying to paint himself as someone who did nothing wrong except marry Amber Heard and reap the consequences of that action. But if he's lying about something like his addiction issues, one could state that he's lying about other things, and the more lies he's potentially caught in, the harder the jury is going to have believing him. As more photographs and text messages were displayed in court, Depp sought again to stress his intake of the various drugs wasn't about enjoyment, but trying to handle the blast radius from his dysfunctional childhood and cinematic workload. "It's not like I took the pills to get high, I took the pills to get normal," Depp declared of his addiction to oxycodone several years ago. The extent of that addiction and other substances was made crystal clear in one text to one of his nurses who had commented on 2015's Black Mass. "I was high as a mother when I made that film," Depp told the nurse with a digital laugh. It should be noted that Depp was the one who made the effort to get clean, and the doctor who treated him for the most part during that period of time was one who noted how determined Depp was to get clean. He also showcased texts and statements from Depp that showcased how, according to Johnny, Amber Heard wasn't supportive of him getting clean. Though curiously, the defense team for Heard showcased that Depp at least one point during the detox was grateful to Heard for her part in it. "Thank you so much for getting me effing clean, baby," he wrote Heard. Another communication to Heard's mother after the detox effort praised the actress and said it was, quote, "Amber and Amber only that got me through this." One could take that many ways, including, as Depp has noted before, that he did his best to keep the marriage going, and that praising Heard for her help in it was one way of getting that message across. Or it could be that he legitimately felt at the time of his true detoxing that Amber was instrumental in it. Given that we weren't there, we can't truly know. Text messages. Johnny Depp's texts were also a very key matter in terms of what was said and not said at the trial, because apparently Depp went to great lengths to describe his frustrations with Heard and how their marriage was going, even talking about it with friends at the time in Paul Bettany and Marilyn Manson, the latter of whom is not exactly the best person to be connected to right now, given the various accusations made on him by various women. Depp had to sit on the stand as many of these texts were read out loud and showed the very profane and violent language in which he described wanting to do various things to Heard at various points in their marriage. Now, it is also true that Johnny Depp has talked about these texts in the past, and even noted that he was embarrassed by what he said in the past, even apologizing for what he wrote at one point during all that was going on. But in the eyes of the defense, and possibly the jury, this would go to illustrate that at the very least, Johnny Depp was pushed to one extreme in regards to the falling apart marriage. He was more than willing and capable of sending various texts to friends about Heard, and that might get some to wonder if he could do something else of a more physical nature, which was no doubt the intent as Heard's legal team went to work. To be clear, and as Depp's own team tried to showcase and note, as well as Depp did his best to explain, just because he sent violent text messages doesn't mean he did or planned to do true physical violence on Amber Heard. To quote the film 12 Angry Men, "You don't really mean you're gonna kill me, do you?" Citing how one juror was so mad at another that he yelled, "I'll kill him," when obviously he wasn't going to actually kill the man. But in a case like this, a case that is about defamation, perception is just as important as anything else, and Amber Heard's legal team is definitely trying to make them perceive Johnny Depp as someone who could go to great lengths to vent his anger, which they also talked about in regards to how Depp destroyed hotel rooms during his marriage with Heard. Even Johnny admitted he broke a couch or two, quote, in his day. Counter moves. If you really want to boil this whole cross-examination thing down, it was done to counter everything that Johnny Depp had said and not said in his testimony. Johnny had built himself up through his own words as a true victim and nothing more, and now Heard's team have shown that there's a bit more of a gray area here that can't be ignored in some context. But Amber Heard and her team can't celebrate yet. After all, Heard herself has not gotten onto the stand, and that'll lead to a whole other set of moves and counter moves as she tries to showcase her side of the story, and then Depp's team will try to knock it down like the house of cards that they believe it is. It also needs to be said that the trial is set to end in the final days of May, barring something speeding it up. So there are still a lot of things that could happen, and that's important to note. So while Johnny Depp fans might be reeling at present, it's a long trial yet, and things could turn around easily or get worse. And there you go, everyone, a look at what Johnny Depp said and how Amber Heard's legal team countered in order to try and paint him as an abusive man and husband. Do you think that what was said on one side or another was indeed compelling? What do you think is going to happen once Heard herself is on the witness stand? Let us know what you think in the comments down below. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time on the channel.